On behalf of TechNext Cyber and AFCEA, we want to welcome you to this afternoon's discussion of ICAM, the Identity Credentialing and Access Management Program at DISA. Our panelists today are Brandon Iskey and Chandler Grice. NetApp is pleased to sponsor the Theater 3 panels. Just as DISA is transforming itself into a software-driven service provider, so NetApp has also made that transition in that we unify the multi-cloud, moving data and VMs and applications without refactoring from any data source to any cloud. Chandler Grice is currently the program manager for ICAM. In this role, he's responsible for the lifecycle management and development through sustainment activities for the ICAM program. The ICAM program delivers identity provider, automated account provisioning, and master user record capabilities for the DoD. Prior to joining ICAM, he held key leadership positions in the Joint Command and Control and National Background Investigation Services programs, driving modernization initiatives for the DoD. In addition, he worked in the Office of the Component Acquisition Executive, where he ushered 3 multi-billion-dollar contracts through the service acquisition life cycle, and obtained approval from the Office of Defense Procurement and Acquisition Policy. Brandon Iskey serves as the Chief Engineer for ID2 Security Enablers portfolio that includes PKI, ICAM, Zero Trust Architecture, and SDE Software-Defined Enterprise for DISA. In early 2017, Mr. Iskey was selected to join the Cyber Directorate's Innovation Cell, and he focused on assured identity. He led Purebred, DoD's mobile-derived credential solution, as well as future efforts focused on mobile MFA and mobile key device attestation. Starting in late 2018 through 2020, he led the initial planning, acquisition, and execution of DISA's support to DoD Enterprise ICAM capabilities for authentication services and account lifecycle management. Please join me in welcoming our panelists today.
Hello, can everybody hear me? All right, perfect, thank you. So, fully understand this is the 1500 hour, and there are happy hours out there, so we'll certainly make this quick so that everyone can get to those. For some of them. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? All right, so my name is Chandler Grice. I'm the program manager for ICAM at DISA. The ICAM program resides within the Cybersecurity and Analytics Directorate under Dr. Brian Herman. So today, Brandon's going to walk us through the first 3 slides, and then I'll be taking us through Federation, roadmap, and then also how do you engage and onboard. So I would ask that if we could hold the questions to the end of the presentation, where we have a designated Q&A time, and we'll certainly go through those if we need to go back through any of the slides. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Brandon for his intro and to get us kicked off.
Yep. Thank you, Chandler, and thank you everyone for joining us here today. So again, I hope the big takeaway we can get here today is a better understanding of what we're delivering and kind of some of the nuances of authentication and authorization that we're trying to enhance from an enterprise perspective. So we definitely have a lot of challenges, I would say, in the identity arena of being able to kind of tell the story here of what we're doing and how it delivers on enhancing cybersecurity. So again, we welcome your questions, and we do want to make this a dialogue here at the end after we give kind of the overview. Just the typical disclaimer. So this is kind of a view we like to put together of just kind of showing again the journey that we're on. So we're in an environment where we have some cases where we have to do username and password, but again, that's typically poor security. We don't want that as kind of our baseline. So early on, and we've had this for decades at this point, we had the DoD CAC and PKI programs, and so that was our ability to have kind of a high assurance credential and a high assurance identity vetting as our primary credential across the department. And then over time, as mobility really expanded in kind of the 2014 to 2016 timeframe, is really when the need for the same credentials but on different form factors really started to emerge. And so that's where the emergence of derived credentials kind of helped expand how we support credentialing and how we access secure websites and do interoperable sign encrypted email. So again, that was kind of the background here on what we did with Purebred. And again, we're supporting over 300,000 unclassed devices with that capability today. And really what we started to work on in the 2019 timeframe and then up till now is really the additional enhanced access management pieces of this. So it's how do we authenticate to applications? What are we using to do certificate validation or alternative multi-factor authentication? And then the latter piece is, again, how do we bring attributes and information together and then drive better governance and account lifecycle management of the access people have. And traditionally what the challenge we have in the department today is the longer you're around, the more and more access you have. And so because those are very manual, maybe PDF processes at best, but traditionally basically a paper process, you get access and then it's not really checked upon. Yes, there's requirements to check upon that, but we all know that that is a kind of a hygiene challenge that we all have as system owners to really keep after that and know that the people and folks on our systems are indeed still legitimate. So we have a big challenge ahead of us, and so we're definitely on the journey. And then Zero Trust is also a big part of this as well too. So as you've probably heard throughout many of the sessions this week and today, identity is a foundational piece of this. So if we can't get how we authenticate, how we identify users and resources on network, on applications, then the rest of the security model is really challenging to do from that point. So we do see this as a fundamental enabler of what we're doing with Thunderdome and other Zero Trust architectures as the department moves that strategy forward. And again, identity is a really tough thing to really break down kind of beyond just saying kind of the high-level identity. So from our vantage point, what we're trying to drive here is, again, scalability and centralization of key services. So basically, the way I like to walk through this is really we have a workforce or people, and again, this all focus here on kind of people, but people have security factors and attributes about them. And they also have devices, and so we use those together to then authenticate to applications to be able to do our mission and access data. And so what we're trying to do from an ICAM and access management perspective is really bring in those additional attributes and context to better control access. And so instead of it just being a binary yes-no decision, as we evolve with Zero Trust, we'll continue to have or evolve to a more conditional access model. And so we can evaluate, are you on a managed device? Are you on a trusted network? Do you have other risk factors that maybe require additional actions before you can access applications or data? And so the challenge we have in trying to achieve that model is we need these kind of fundamental ICAM services in place so that when we're doing those type of advanced integrations later down the road, we're doing that in a handful of places. And the challenge we have today is with PKI and CAC being the standard, really that has driven access management to be very decentralized. And so across the department, much of that is enforced directly at the application. And so that's kind of the difference we show here between the decentralized and centralized model of we can't achieve Zero Trust if we have to touch every single application to do the kind of complex integrations that will come in the future. So again, that's kind of the core so what of why authentication services and identity providers and then the lifecycle pieces of this are all really critical stepping stones. So this is an overview again, and part of the challenge with ICAM and identity across the department is this brings together multiple organizations that are enterprise service providers. So we have partnerships with DMDC and NSA and DoD-CIO that all have a different piece of the puzzle here. And so we have capabilities with DMDC that is traditionally for CAC issuance. They have DEERS Rapids, and then they're also evolving their capabilities to also support how do we register mission partners. So today in coalition environments and other lower level applications, it's very easy to just add extra users when you need to that maybe aren't sponsored for a CAC. And so we want to have the right capabilities in place to bring that up to a higher level. And so if I have a sponsored user who needs access to DoD systems, the answer isn't just get a CAC and it works. We want to be able to leverage their credentials where appropriate and where trusted, as well as have federation and sponsorship capabilities to enable their access to DoD applications and data. So again, it's a kind of a complex picture here, but it just shows the complexity of the system of systems that makes up identity. And the bluish purple boxes kind of in the center top are really the three components that we're delivering on: the master user record, the automated account provisioning, and identity provider. And again, we've got some definitions there that kind of cover what those are. But again, this is kind of the notional view of the complexity of identity, the pieces we're bringing to the table, and then how that plugs in kind of with the rest of the architecture. And again, it's very challenging in how we articulate this and how do we deliver the capabilities so that we can, at the end of the day, deliver that the requirements and capabilities that applications need. Because at the end of the day, they care about authenticating CAC users, or they care about authenticating users outside of their typical AOR, or they need multi-factor authentication so they can support bring your own device and other things. So we're trying to, it's a complex system of systems that come together to deliver those type of outcomes. Again, touching on the three components of ours, so the identity provider is our authentication services. So this is what's supporting our Office 365 tenants across the department today with the capability called GFUD. So that was part of other enhancements that we've brought within our portfolio over the last 6 months or so. Again, so that was a capability that was developed out of our cloud computing office and then transitioned to us. So we've had a lot of change while we're also working through our pilot activities. So that was a component change and optimization we made as a business decision within DISA. And then we continue to build out on the automated account provisioning and master user record pieces. And again, these are identity governance tools and directory services that support workflows and automation and recertification of access over time. Over to you.
Yep. Thanks, Brandon. All right, so I'll walk us through federation. So federation is an interesting topic because there's a lot to federation. It's pretty much in every discussion that we're having with all of our mission partners at the department level with different tech exchanges, but so much of it is undefined. But what that also means is that we have endless opportunities as a department to get ahead of this and also set our own course. At a high level, federation is more so about interoperability, data sharing, and collaboration. So our approach to get after this starts with how we federate within the DoD, how we federate at the enterprise level, component, and then also whenever we federate between cloud tenants. Also, then moving forward in parallel, as we continue to work and build within the department, how are we going to federate with our federal partners, coalition partners, industry, etc. So going forward, governance will play a crucial role in defining attributes, schema, data sources at the enterprise level, and also in defining criteria for adopting enterprise versus component ICAM solutions. So over the past couple years, as we've worked on ICAM, we have a lot of lessons learned. So one of those lessons learned is that while we're getting after a huge space with the DISA enterprise solution, there's also some pieces as we look at the components specific at the service level with like regional, tactical, DDIL type scenarios where we may not be able to hit every single one of those points, but how we align and support those points is where we have critical areas within the governance of how we're actually going to get after the entire mission need across the department. So we're also targeting and how we leverage lessons learned with non-governmental examples like in academia. And then we also have some use cases that we'll be exploring over the next few months, which actually gets us to our next slide covering the roadmap. All right, so here, I'm going to start over on the left side with what we have available today. So we have CAC authentication service that's available for DoD 365 tenants and then also for customer applications. And then we have multi-factor authentication for CAC holders for bring your own approved device pilots. So those capabilities reside within the Global Federated User Directory, which acts as our identity provider. So how we measure that success is that right now GFUD currently serves over 1 million authentication requests daily. So anyone that is within the DoD, whenever you go to authenticate, if you see the German Shepherd with the doggles, that means you're hitting GFUD. So over 1 million of those authentications daily. We've also successfully onboarded 5 365 tenants, with 2 more projected over the summertime. And then we've also onboarded 28 customer applications. For MFA, we're piloting right now with 5 customers, where we also have over 32,000 users for MFA. Also last month, what we delivered was the self-service portal for the authentication service. So really what our purpose is there is that we want to make it easy, intuitive, and fast for customers to onboard to our service offerings. So, and then we have the CAC identity feeds, which is via the identity synchronization service, which has been a capability for the department. It's been around for many years. All right, next I'm going to turn towards our, the middle portion there, which is what we have coming up next. So we have our initial automated DD2875 capability, which is with a connected workflow that we'll be rolling out. We'll be rolling out next month, along with the intra-application segregation of duties. So for these 2 capabilities, we've partnered with the financial management community, and we're working with 8 pilot applications. This week we'll actually be finishing up user acceptance testing with the last 3 of those pilot applications, and then we'll be full steam ahead delivering that capability and onboarding the first applications to those capabilities. So although we've partnered with the financial management community for the initial rollout of those, this capability will be available for all customer applications throughout the DoD, financial management and non-financial management. So what we're going to balance moving forward is that as we continue to work with the FM community, it's also bringing on the non-financial management applications, and that we throttle it right so that we can serve the entire DoD community with that capability. Next, in July, we have enterprise segregation of duties, and then we also have our initial SIPR capability rollout. So segregation of duties was again built partnering with the financial management community. However, that will also be available to anyone across the department that were to need it. And for the initial SIPR capability, that is providing first it's given the department an OWL6 cloud solution where we'll be able to authenticate to Reliant Party applications. So that's been a big effort. We're partnering with a lot of folks within DISA, with the DOS office, et cetera, for really bringing that forward and making that capability out there for the entire department. All right, next we have the self-service portal expansion. So our main intent here with the expansion of that is that we already have it available for the IDP, but as we continue to grow and make our capabilities or our service offerings available, any customer that want on board, you have the same door that you come through for any of our service offerings. So you come in through that door, you have the different offerings, you'll be able to choose which ones you want, and then that'll then be sent off so that it'll get us to the right people, the right place, the right teams, at the right time, so that we can onboard those applications to our capabilities. All right, and then next, as we move over to the ones that are a little bit further out, I'll say that our top 4 target areas, and these are not in any specific order because we do have a lot of customers across the department. Some are very, very large and very loud, but our top 4 target areas are: how do we get after expanding multi-factor authentication and also our SIPR capability? Taking aggressive steps forward towards proving out the Federation use cases that we have coming up, and then also determining how far do we want to take privilege access management. We currently offer some privilege access management with what the solution that we have available today, but there are opportunities to grow and expand that. So it'll be the determination, the assessment for how far we want to take that on. All right, next slide. Okay, and then for anyone that would want to engage and on board, really in the middle there, that's where we have our links for the self-service portal for the Global Federated User Directory Authentication Service. And then also, if we look down below, that's where we have, oh, it was there. All right, we'll figure out how we get that out. But we have a team site that's also for the out there for the ICAM team. All of our information's on there. So regardless, all of those different sites, that'll get you to the right team members across the right between GFUD and our other component portions. And then the ICAM team site, what I was about to say was that we keep that updated regularly. We have our brown bag meeting minutes. We have brown bags monthly. All of our documentation, updates, etc., are posted on there. So with that, that concludes our brief and now our presentation. And now I think we can go into the Q&A session.
Another thing I'd like to add on as well here, so again, these are appropriated services, so there's no additional fee for service for our mission partners across the DoD. So that is a big effort that we have been undertaking to make sure that we have appropriated dollars to cover the service throughout the FIDEP. So that is a bonus here to make sure to consider for those service applications looking for these kind of capabilities. All right, questions?
Chandler, can you comment further in as much detail as you can share that MFA Pilot you mentioned with the 35,000 users, with the technologies involved?
So from a technology piece, yeah.
Yes, I'll take that. So that initial capability is based on our GFUD capability. So it's a set of, again, since it's mostly focused on Office 365, it is a Microsoft Authenticator-based solution. And so part of that is changes we make to GFUD and the user objects in that directory, as well as MFA enforcement at the Office 365 tenant level. So it's kind of a complex solution on how we pull that together across those capabilities. And again, for targeted users that have signed the EULA and agreed to that particular service. So right now, again, that's in pilot for licensed users. It doesn't answer the mail for what we're going to do across the board long term. Again, because not every user in the department is licensed for Office 365. So that while that serves a big population, it doesn't serve everything end all be all. And so that's why you see on the roadmap on the previous chart why that's still kind of our larger strategy is still to be paved.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you go into detail on the enterprise SOD and what pilot systems we'll expect in that next 6 months?
Yeah, so on the segregation of duties, so again, that's where we are partnering with the financial management community now. So pilots that we're working with, we have 8 of them. They're actually across various different areas. There are 2 from DFAS, 2 from DISA, 1 from Air Force, 1 OUSD system, 1 Army, and I'm missing 1, DLA, sorry, DLA. So we have 8 in total. Actually, through the user acceptance testing that's currently going on now, we have a lot of lessons learned. We have some that are ready to cut over as soon as we make it available in May, and then there are others that we're going to continue to iterate that'll get on our release schedule. And once we actually hit the mark for all those different pieces, then the rest of them will be coming on. So, but I guess from a segregation of duty, did I hit the mark there, or did I not hit the mark?
Sorry, I'm looking at an enterprise level, right? So of those pilot systems across all agencies.
You step a little closer. Thank you.
Of those pilot systems across all agencies, is that expected to be coordinated between those agencies, that enterprise-wide SOD?
I mean, we've got a long journey to get to enterprise SOD, I guess, is the bottom line.
Okay.
So that's why we're looking at it from an iterative delivery perspective of how can we do that within application where we have business logic. So if I can't be a submitter and an approver, for example, you could do that within that application. That's part of what we're doing today. But how that evolves of how we look at that across applications from the same organization and then across organizational boundaries is still very much a long journey ahead of us.
Yes.
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
Was there a follow-on? Sorry.
One thing I would like to add there too that we have coming up is that we have a lot of current and upcoming engagements with OUSD for the governance that's going to be around SOD. So as we look at standards and then how SOD has been built within each FM system over time, there's a lot of variants, or we could say unique requirements. And so that's where we're trying to figure out what does that standard need to look like that could be applied across the enterprise. And then what that impact would be to each application themselves that may have to modify, or what we're going to need to do at the enterprise level to be able to serve that full enterprise suite. So
And
there's
part
a lot
of what
work
we're
there.
looking at there too is do we need to have kind of an enterprise definition of the standard for the role so that we can have those type of outcomes of mapping those different roles that exist all over the place. I might have it be called approver in this system, but it's maybe called approver 2.0 in another system. At the end of the day, they're all going to roll up to an approver definition. So we're still looking at how we evolve that standard as we go forward.
Okay, and just to circle back, so what I heard is that's still to be determined, and the governance board is going to be involved in figuring
Absolutely.
out how to do that.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, great, thank you.
Hey, first off, great presentation. Love seeing the evolution when we look at ICAM and how that has evolved over time from that decentralized model to that centralized framework. One of the questions that I have for you and where I'm interested in is as we move to that federated model, where everything's kind of going back to that central GFUD, what considerations and because I didn't see it in the architecture, maybe it's there and just wasn't there, for where we've got systems that from that continuity of operations standpoint really can't go down and would have to talk back to that kind of central GFUD. But if that communication goes down, how do we kind of establish that continuation, but still trying to use that centralized federation framework? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd say initially we're trying to hit kind of the 80% mark, but again, those corner cases are going to be huge. And so we think we have the right technologies in place with what we're using for the master user record that will allow us to synchronize those identities to multiple directories across those different regions or where those requirements need to be met. And so from that perspective, you can then authenticate locally depending on whether the application is home to either multiple identity providers or if we look at sharing keys kind of across those different identity providers. I mean, those are still options on the table. I don't think anything is really settled there. But again, I think as we look at kind of edge compute and how we do that from a cloud and a collaboration perspective, we'll be very much in lockstep with those efforts as those evolve to support them.
Okay.
Is that?
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Yes, you mentioned that you're currently providing some capabilities regarding privileged access management. I'm just curious what technologies are providing those capabilities now, and secondly, you mentioned that you're looking potentially to expand privileged access management. What are the areas that you see you need to expand to or enhance your current offering?
I mean, I won't comment on the technologies. I'll say from an approach perspective, we have a pretty robust build out in our cloud tenant from what our cloud computing folks built out for us. So that's part of the capability that we've inherited within the portfolio. But again, that's fundamental of how DISA and the department is moving into the cloud long term. So they built out a full capability for how we do remote access, separate user forest for users and resources and administrators. And then that kind of fits most of the bill of what we have today. So what we're seeing is kind of the ask from some mission partners of to provide PAM. And so there are other services within DISA that do provide that to some extent, but those are additional fee-for-service capabilities. So it's not necessarily part of our portfolio, but it's part of the overall offering from a DISA perspective. And so our evolution is, do we look at how we bring that into kind of the ICAM portfolio as part of the appropriated service that would make those a more reachable service to the department. And then anything to add, Chandler?
No. So in addition to what Brandon said too, from what we have right now, so like he mentioned as far as like between the different directories, and then with that it's also the ability to request the privileged access role. And so then I think whenever we get into the additional pieces for how we expand that out, provisioning, deprovisioning, the administrative aspect, I think that's where we're going to assess
Need for the requirements.
Yeah, for the assess like what are the steps that we need to take to get after those, what exactly those are, what the demand is, and then where exactly that line needs to be between what we can do with our solution and then where we're also going to need help where it's already being provided at other levels.
Great. Thank you.
Hi. Expanding on that question, on the PAM side, does that include just-in-time access as well?
Leave at this time, no. But part of that is the entire framework of how we've built that out. It is kind of extreme role separation and taking advantage of some of the modern cloud features. So that is part of, I think, where we could continue to evolve to, but is not necessarily where we are today.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Great dialogue. Thank you. What other questions? Okay, thank you all. And again, we'll be around here if you have any other questions. Come up to us direct. Thank you.